In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, our special guest is Mr. Jean Patrick Guichard. Jean Patrick was born in Brooklyn, raised in Guinea, West Africa. Jean Patrick Guichard is a cultural curator and visionary, arts advocate whose journey bridges continent and communities. Inspired early by his mother, a U.S. Foreign Service officer, Jean Patrick's passion for African art was shaped by immersive travels across sub Saharan Africa, including Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Cameroon, Congo Brazzaville, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. With a degree in Black Studies from San Francisco State University, Jean Patrick has spent decades working across nonprofit and for-profit sectors, managing programs in natural resource conservation, childhood survival, conflict resolution, international exchange, and IT. These roles deepened his connection to the continent and fueled his expansive art collection and relationships with artists across Africa and the diaspora. As founder of Gallery Miriam, Jean Patrick champions emerging African artists by curating exhibitions in the U.S., including at Gallery Serengeti, Capitol Heights, Maryland, and Akazi ATL, Atlanta, Georgia. His work centers cultural exchange, legacy building, and sensory storytelling, most notably through his signature Art and Senses Dinner series, which fuses African art, cuisine, music, and dialogue to celebrate the continent's impact on contemporary culture. Jean Patrick's mission is clear: to elevate African artistry, foster cross cultural understanding, and create platforms where every creative becomes a tool for education, empowerment, and global connection. Ladies and gentlemen, Jean Patrick Guichard. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm great. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio before we get into the show?
Um, I migrate, even though I still do, I'm heavily involved in the arts, but now I'm mostly doing IT as far as work, no longer working with international organizations. I do project management for IT companies. That's just what I do.
Okay. Well, let's start out by jumping into your entrepreneurial journey. Um, can you tell us what inspired you to launch Gallery Miriam and what does the name represent?
Oh, okay. What inspired me? I'll start with what inspired me to get into the arts. I would say is basically my mother. Of course, I was like you mentioned. I was been collecting for the longest. Can't even remember when I started. But But then, as I was going around, and I buy stuff here, I buy stuff there, and one of the artists from Senegal, Cheikh Tidiane Keita, approached me and said, "Listen, you're doing you come in and you're buying. We see that, we appreciate. But when actually are you going to do something for us?" And I'm like, "Okay, say that in a different way so I can better understand what you're trying to say." So he said, "Why don't you start working on exhibits, promoting us in the U.S. and other places, becoming our manager, do things with us so we can start." I said, "Okay, that's something that never occurred to me." I said, "Sure, let me give it a try." And I came back to, I was in Maryland, DC. I was in Maryland at the time, went back to Maryland and went to Gallery Serengeti and spoke to Weiss and West, the owner, about what the artists were wanting to do. He said, "I'm all for it." So our first exhibit was in 2010, and it started with three Senegalese artists, of course, Cheikh Diane Keita, Babali, and Kine Ao, and it was a very successful exhibit. And from there, we just continued, and I expanded to other artists from the diaspora. Now, the name Gallery Miriam is once, I think it was 2013, 2014, no, 2012, thereabout. I started thinking maybe I should open my own gallery and do these things, and I can collaborate more with other galleries, because you can say, "Hey, I'm a curator, I'm doing this," but they say, "Well, do you have a gallery?" That's what other galleries will ask you. Say, "Not actually." So they really not won't take you seriously. So I started to say that, let me have my own gallery, and I named it Gallery Miriam after my mother's first name was Miriam, so I just named it Gallery Miriam.
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm sure that's very inspirational. So, like, when you first opened the gallery, what was your main purpose or focus when you started your first exhibits? I mean, what did you plan from start up to this point as to the artists coming into the gallery?
My main goal has always been in this. My main goal has always been to promote the young African artists, the young talent that are in Africa that you mostly uh, don't have. They're not known in the U.S. They're known. They exhibit all over Europe and stuff, but not in the U.S. because maybe the language barrier, because they are French speaking and stuff. So I said, okay, let me focus on those and start exhibiting them, promoting them in the U.S. It was never as to, oh, let me make myself a ton of money, but it was mostly giving a push to the young artists.
Mhm. So, how did your upbringing between Brooklyn and Guinea shape your entrepreneurial mindset?
Honestly, I don't even, people may think that I have an entrepreneurial mindset because of the things I do. But I can actually say that it was something that shaped entrepreneurial mindset, because it's something I've kind of fell into. And I say, hey, I'm a cultural person. I enjoy culture.
Mhm.
Whenever I traveled in Africa working with NGOs, nonprofit organization, and NGOs, it was always, I always enjoy the cultural aspect of it also, knowing the people's culture, mingling with them, the thought process, to better understand them, to better resolve whatever issues they have. So culture has always been something of interest to me. Starting a gallery and working with a young artist, that's it's pure love. So, and I always find different avenues, think of different ways I can expand it.
Okay. And I can understand that, especially, when you're actually going to be promoting these artists that are over in West Africa, not known here in the US. And, I'm sure that that took a whole lot of work, even in just doing that. And so when actually coming up with everything that was going to be done, how did you determine the timing and the number of pieces that you would display here in the US?
Um, That timing was left up to Gallery Serengeti, so to speak. Uh, the pieces that I want to display, I do not usually don't have a theme. I ask the artists, show me what you have and what you want to present,
Hmm.
and they usually they always send me pictures, and I say, okay, well, let's go with that, and then that's how we go, because I don't want to influence the artist by saying, no, I want you to do this way, I want you to do that way. My goal, I want them to be able free. I want to have a safe zone where they can freely express themselves
Hmm.
as artists.
So, what were the biggest challenges in building a gallery focused on African artists in the U.S.?
Ooh, the biggest challenge was finding partners, collectors, other galleries to work with, areas where I can do shows to promote. That has always been the biggest challenge. Even here, when I moved to Atlanta, it took me a good 5 years to constantly work, and get into things, make myself known, make what I do known, because down south is a different mentality than up north, of course. So I had to get to understand the mentality, who work with the people, understand where they're coming from and how they operate. And then, yeah, so I used all my background in international relations, working with different communities. I use all that knowledge here to be able to kind of like break in, which I'm still working on actually, and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, when as we're talking about those challenges and so forth, like, did were there like any like uh, uh, you know streamlining that was put in place, that it has to be just particular things or whatever have you, that the places here in the U.S. felt was art? Was that kind of like the difference as into what they were, one of the challenges they were facing, I guess, as to what art was?
It's not necessarily that.
Hmm.
I had to understand that uh, people in Atlanta have a different mindset in the sense that if they don't know you, they're not going to come.
Okay, well, true.
Okay. Basically, as opposed to up north, they know you or not, they don't care. They want to enjoy the art and they come to the art.
Right.
So I had a good mentor. Was out. He doesn't even know that he was mentoring me. Someone from the Atlanta art, Kevin Sip, that I spoke to a lot, and he opened a lot of doors, encouraging me to meet this person, meet that person, and kind of getting to know people, and different people, having different conversations, having having art and senses dinner at my house, in which art and African art, African food, African drinks, everything is served, and we talk about art and where we're going with it. And the artist is here doing a live performance, stuff like that. You just come up with different creative things to really get known and move forward.
Mhm. So, how do you define success as a cultural entrepreneur?
Uh, that's a very interesting question. How do I define success? Uh, to me, as when I manage to bring in a young artist and exhibit him or her, that is success to me. I would call that success. Whether there's some sales or not, but the connections are the most important things. Them connecting with other people, other artists here, other galleries, and different, maybe sometimes the international, Atlanta International School, for example, in which they're asked to come and teach kids or do something with the kids. As long as something comes out of it, it's success to me. Yes.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that question, and I normally ask that a lot of entrepreneurs, is because a lot of people define success based on monetary value,
Hmm.
how much money they make. And, I've always been one to not think that way because I'm thinking that even if you just got the business started, you're successful, you know.
Hmm.
And so, but with that being said, how do you determine which of your clients you're going to represent?
That's very easy for me.
Mhm.
I usually prefer to meet the artist in person, break bread with them, get to know them, and see if we, how you say, if we vibe.
Yes.
Because I don't like to be aggravated by
Right.
something. So I try to get to know the artist first, then see if we're on the same page and if we vibe, if we have that relationship
Mhm.
first, and then we proceed. That's how I operate with them. But also, I also look at the work because there are very, very, very many talented artists. I mean, sometimes you look at the work, you just hold your head and said, "Wow, unbelievable." I mean, this beautiful works, and that's my mission to really introduce them here in the U.S. in one form or the other.
So, what role does legacy play in your business decision?
Legacy. Can you say that in a different way?
Um, um, in doing your business, are you intending on building a legacy that's going to be everlasting?
Mm, I intend to build a legacy, but the legacy is with the people I worked with, so to speak. Because is there going to be anybody to pick up Gallery Miriam and continue? Honestly, no, I don't think so.
Mhm.
But I always say what's important is how you want to be remembered,
Mhm.
and that's your legacy.
Oh
And
wow.
as many people as I can, as many artists that I can touch and assist and promote their work, that's sufficient. That's sufficient for me. And also, I also encourage them. I encourage the artists I work with to also do the same with younger artists that are coming up.
Right.
Mentor them. That's how I see it as legacy.
How do you balance commerce with cultural integrity?
Honestly, it's not a thought. In the sense that it's not a thought is because whatever the artists do, that's what I promote. So that's the integrity right there. Whether it sells or not, that's a different issue. But I do tell them that you do have to do things based on the market that you're working in. For example, uh, a painting of herders is not going to sell well over here for sure because people don't identify themselves with it. But a young man sitting in the city doing, you can have a bodily expression, yeah, people can identify. Oh yes, I can identify with that. So there is a balance as far as uh, commerce wise. Once they align with what they once they align with where they're exhibiting,
Mhm.
I think all falls into place.
So, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs looking to build mission-driven platforms?
I would say network,
Mhm.
network. Have a mentor. Let someone that's been there guide you. Of course, you have to make up your own mind as to how you want to do things. But network and is very important. It opens a lot of doors, and a mentor can definitely open a whole bunch of doors for you. So it's important to network, get together with other entrepreneurs doing the same thing, and don't be afraid saying, "Oh, they might steal my idea. They will do this. They'll do." Just do it. Share, and some will be happy, others won't. But as long as you're sharing, people will say, hey, this person shared this with me. By the way, contact him for this or contact him for that.
So, how do you approach partnerships and sponsorships for your exhibitions?
Partnerships, I usually approach different galleries, talk to them about my portfolio of artists and what I can do, what I've done in the past, what I can do. See if there's a gap, if there's something they would like to, the gap they would like to fill, and how we can work together and sign an agreement and stuff like that, and work on that, work that way. Um, that's usually how I operate with building partnerships with other galleries and other artists.
So, what's your vision for Gallery Miriam 5 years from now?
5 years from now, hopefully, I will do continue doing the same thing. I will continue to work with younger artists that are coming up and help them establishing themselves in the U.S. or elsewhere. Also, start working with partnering with other galleries as well. Eventually, I think I'm going to have a physical gallery that's not in my house because
Okay.
I do want to move all this work out of my house into somewhere else. So
Would cause you to have to be like Fort Knox, right?
I know, right?
I understand that. Um, how do you measure impact beyond financial metrics?
Oh, I think that measurement of impact beyond financial metrics, it'll be the same thing as I will probably give the same response as how do I how do I how do I measure success?
Mhm.
To me, it's the same. Would be the same as far as uh, putting in a program for the artist and a successful program and making those connection with other local artists and other galleries and working together with even galleries in France, for example, and South Africa, and stuff that I communicate with and work with the things. Yeah, that's would be successful.
Mhm. Well, I think, as we're talking about the success and so forth, and, and the impact and so forth, I think, well, just for me, and maybe you can help correct me here if I'm off.
Hmm.
Just when I think about the impact and you think about art and you think about that creativity, I mean, I think with it being such a free expression and how these artists express these pieces and so forth, that I would think that they're all going to have some impact in some shape, form, or fashion. Some may be a little bit deeper than others due to like what category it may be in. Like for instance, like how a lot of people love abstract art, so abstract people be like, oh wow, rave and hooray about some abstract pieces. People that love all the animation or whatever have you, maybe ranting and raving about that. So like with that impact, is it like from the art world, is it that is it by the genres, or is it just strictly by the pieces that the impact comes into play, that it makes that major splash?
I think it's about a piece because art, let's say a painting has different meaning, has different impact on different people.
Hmm.
So, to me, for example, when I'm looking at something, I'm looking at something that speaks to me.
Right.
So it's easy for me to assume that that's for everybody else as well. Because I can see an art piece and I'm like, what was he thinking? No. And I can look at another piece. I said, I gotta have it. I give an example. I had an artist here that came, young artist, Shakti Jan Keita. He was here and he came for an exhibit at the Alliance Française, which I used to exhibit a lot with until COVID. So that kind of had to go on a reset. Um, he was uh, unwrapping some artwork in the living room. I just saw a sliver of a corner of an art piece. I said, "That's mine. No, I don't care what you say. I'm taking that one." I didn't even see the whole piece,
Uh-huh.
but just by the color scheme of that little angle that I saw, I was like, "Oh, I know I want this one." So that's how it is. And I've been to a lot of things, but I noticed also. Let me say this: customers are different. And for example, in Europe, customers, they feel the piece, they like it, they buy it.
Mhm.
In America, they want to know what it is and then what explanations behind it for them to connect to it.
Mhm. Well, you know what's interesting about that is I'm going to tell you this because I'm an abstract person. I love abstract art. And I can promise you, I can see 15 different abstract pieces, but I can guarantee you that there's one that's talking to me.
Yep.
Guarantee.
Yeah.
I love this.
And that's how it is. So when you ask about impact, different people have different. It has impact on different people depending on what it is. I can have a huge abstract here, and you're gonna walk in. He said, and pass out and say, "Okay, take me home with it."
Right.
So it has different meaning for different impact on different people. But most people, I think, they connect with art emotion on the emotional level. Others, though, connect on a monetary level. They know, okay, this is from this artist. Uh, he's this age. Okay, he might pass soon, and if he passes soon, that means the value is going to go up. So let me just go ahead and buy this. For example, when I started, when I'm when in my process of collecting, I used to go to art schools uh, in different African countries. I go to art school and talk to the students, the artists, the students, and the one that expresses themselves the best, I buy from that person, and it never fails. After they graduate, they just blow up.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. You got that eye.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit deeper here into art and your work as a curator. Um, so can you tell us what makes African art distinct in its storytelling and symbolism?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I believe that artists are custodian of their own history, of their time they live in.
Mhm.
And they usually tell a story about what's going on in their lives at that specific time. So it's like a picture of a specific time for them, and they're custodian. They're custodian for that. Um, Repeat the question one more time, so I know I'm answering. I'm answering.
What makes African art distinct in its storytelling and symbolism?
Okay, so in the sense that there are multiple different cultures, multiple different ethnic groups in Africa, each one with its particularity in which in their own design. You can see different masks. If I'm going to traditional art, different masks have different features depending on what group they belong to, different different shapes. So that art will symbolize what people symbolize their people, so to speak. I'm not sure if I'm answering properly. My mind is churning because there's a lot going on in my head right now. I'm trying to synthesize everything into bite pieces. But African art on a whole is something that Africans have ignored for a long time. Uh, for the past 10, 15 years, Africans have started collecting their own work and their own art.
Really?
Yeah, and actually, the biggest, I would say, one of the largest collectors of African art, mostly are Africans these days.
Mhm.
There are a lot of art galleries popping up all over Africa, the artists coming. So it's there's movement there, and there's a lot of hope. It still has not gotten to the scale of what is supposed to, or I would say what we're used to in the West as far as infrastructure, safe spaces for the artists, because some tend to be political, others don't. So there's always some are provocative, and the people are not ready for some things based on religion or political ideologies. So it's always trying to find that safe space and that safe area where artists can thrive. But as far as symbolism, I think that the artwork that they create is represent their community and uh, the time and space in which they are when they're actually doing that work.
So, so like when you let's say, let's just give me an example so I can, so maybe you can help our audience to understand a little bit more, because I think I got what you just said. So, like, let's say you're looking at this piece, and it's got some things going on, and you can pretty much see the story. So, let's say you're looking at this story where it's a tragic story that's being told in a piece.
Hmm.
When you see that, what are some of the identifiers that you identify to kind of like draw you to the piece where you can understand the story that's being told, or the symbol that's being told?
Oh, I would have to base that on my knowledge
Hmm.
and experience.
Hmm.
So if I see, if I'm familiar with, let's say, Andikra symbols
Right, right.
or some other, what is it called? I forgot the symbols of the writings in this group in Nigeria. I forgot the word, the name of it, so to speak. But when I see it, I can identify. Say, okay, that's what this is.
Mhm.
When I look at the person in the story, I mean, in the on the painting, in the symbols, I can put the two together and and surmise something. It's just like reading, familiar myself with like a Chinese word. If I say east, in Chinese, east is just the sun rising behind a tree. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so to speak. So it's the same thing with African art. You kind of look at the piece and you look at all the different things in it. That it may just be a red line. That little red line will symbolize something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
See.
but sometimes you have to also talk to the artist and say, this is what I'm understanding of it. And can I say, for example, there's a young Ghanaian artist here in Atlanta, and Lord, I forgot his name. I met him 2 weeks ago, and I went to one exhibit in which he was featured. And the piece was a powerful piece. It was one hand coming out of water with light surrounding it, and the other hand it was trying to grab someone, grab another hand. And I asked him, I said, explain this to me. So I explained. He said, "Oh no, it's just the ancestors bringing, calling someone in, and this and that." So I asked. I said, "Why did you use the color blue?"
Mhm.
He was like, "Oh no, it's just blue. I meditated, and it was just the color blue that came." And I said, "But do you know that all the deity, all the ancestors, and were painted in blue? The Anunnakis were painted in blue, for example." So that's the divine. So basically, you painted a divine hand reaching for mankind and pulling them into the light.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, I didn't see that way.
Oh, see.
I said, what is the symbol of water? He said, oh no, it's just like a dimension. I said, okay. If you look at the Bible, for example, it says the Spirit at the beginning, the Spirit of God was moving above the water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you go back to the Egyptian Book of the Dead or Coming Forth by Day, it would say that the Spirit of God rose from the water and sat on the hill. so, so I said, so water does have a symbol. In your meditation, you painted what came to you, but you still had some knowledge that was, you were not knowledgeable of what you were painting, but you felt what you were painting and you painted because that's what the Spirit told you to paint. But now this is all the symbolism that I saw in the painting, and I brought to his attention. He was like, you know what? I just painted, and it never occurred that that's what I was doing.
Oh, wow. So how do you select artists to feature in your exhibitions? I think we already talked about that.
Yeah.
Um, can you share a moment when a piece of art deeply moved you?
Uh, yes, I can. And I was, actually, I would say because I have two pieces.
Hmm.
One of the pieces was from the artist, from one artist, and it was a young man sitting and another young man kneeling behind him with the elbow, the the elbow on the shoulder.
Hmm.
It moved me because African artists, men, usually paint women.
Hmm.
They hardly paint men. You can count a few would paint men, but
Hmm.
they always had a tendency of painting women. So when I saw that, I was like, that piece I have to have because it's my first time seeing that, and it really moved me.
Hmm.
And that's how I got to have that piece. That's the one. The second, it was from this artist from Senegal, Kine Ao. It was an expression, it depicted the plight of women in Africa,
Hmm.
basically. I mean, this woman, you can see by the weight she was, by the way she was bent by the weight of things, you can see the suffering in her body,
Hmm.
so to speak. And that kind of movement, I said, in that little painting, it says everything.
Wow. Wow. Um, how do you educate audiences unfamiliar with African artistic traditions?
Um, I usually have sessions. In the past, I would just talk to have like an exhibit. I'll have question and answer and talk to them about the art, the way art. Um, how can I put this? The way the artist, where the artist is coming from in painting that, and it's a little complicated. Actually, not complicated. The educational thing is a process in which it has to have with many conversations. And it's not only during an exhibit, it could be here at my home, fellowshipping with folk, having a fellowship with folk, different artists and different people, talking about art because my house is set up as a gallery museum.
Mhm.
So it gives a idea to have discussions on different pieces and different things and different, especially I would say it's complicated because I grew up in Guinea, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
and it was a communist country.
Mm.
And under communist country in that era, art was not encouraged.
Mm.
So you did not have artists, so to speak. You had a few people that did little things to sell on the market and so forth, but you didn't have like famous artists that came out of Guinea that painted this and painted that, something famous. No, because art was discouraged because it was anti-revolutionary.
Wow.
So, so to speak. So when I moved out of Guinea to move to Senegal and Ivory Coast for to finish high school, that's when I was exposed to a lot of art, and I started understanding and talking to the artists and understanding what was going on and how they were doing things. So based on my being educated on art for by the artist and the audience and everybody else. That's what I use to educate others as well as far as art is concerned.
So when it comes down to it, if you could tell us this, because I think when we had this discussion, I mean, that caught me off guard. What was it like being in a communist society and not have the ability, not the ability, but not given the authority to create and express yourself? What was that like?
I personally cannot say because I'm not an artist, so to speak. Uh, but you can see that there was not really creative. It was really not. There was not much creative stuff going on.
Mhm,
You can count on, except the expats that were working at different embassies. You didn't see any,
mhm,
so to speak. So even if you had artists, the audience or the market for that was not present. I had art in the house because my mom is from Brooklyn. She's from New York, and she always came with art pieces from here and things, probably things that belonged to her mother or her father or whoever. She always decorated the house and put artwork up. But if I went to other people, my friend's house, they had they may have a print by Picasso or something. It was just a print or family pictures.
mhm.
So that was in Guinea. So that's what I'll say. There was not that much art that was visible at that time. So I'm assuming that actually it was difficult at the time. But even now, uh, the art scene is not that great there
Oh,
because we're still living under the ghost of that revolutionary period.
what trends are you seeing in contemporary African art?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I never thought about about that trends. Because it's like what they say, when you're in the middle of the forest, you cannot distinguish the trees,
Right. It's true.
so to speak. Um, but what the trends I've seen is that, like I mentioned before, Africans are buying African art and they're collecting African art.
Mhm.
That's what I like to see. I have noticed and seen and encourage artists
Mhm.
to collect art from other artists for their legacy, for their kids, and stuff like that. So I've seen a lot of that going on. A lot of different artists coming up. Some have galleries in their own homes, uh, in their own spaces. Uh, but there's like an explosion of art, I
Mhm.
would say. I mean, you see what some of these kids are doing, you'd be like, wow, what inspired you? And mind you, it's not AI generated, so
Yeah,
to,
that's the good thing.
so to speak.
Mhm.
So they creating a lot. They coming a lot. They finding different medium, different bar, different things. I'll tell you one quick story, if I may.
Mhm.
There was this old gentleman named Leo Sarkeesian. He was the director of the African music at Voice of America, African section of Voice of America music section. And he's also went over. He whenever he traveled all over Africa, he was also an artist. And he used to sketch, and I used to sit and talk with him, and he used to talk about how he used to teach students or artists to use what they have on hand. You don't need all this stuff. Just use what you have and create something from it. And I was at the Gallery Serengeti, and I was talking to Mr. West about wanting to do an exhibit for Leo Sarkeesian because he was 94 years old and stuff like that. He had all these paintings that he had of different people in Africa. I said, let's go ahead and do an exhibit for him. He said, who, Leo Sarkeesian? And he pointed something to me. He said, "You see that piece over there?" I said, "Which way?" He said, "Oh, that one." I said, "Yes, I see it." He said, "That's one of the students of Leo Sarkeesian
Oh, wow.
back in 1972."
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a legacy.
Yes, it is a legacy. So that's how you just talk. When talk about legacy, that's what came to mind.
Right. Oh, man. So, how do you navigate the tension between traditional and modern expression?
That how do I navigate the tension or
Yes,
distinction?
the tension.
I don't see any tension,
Okay.
so to speak, because to me, art is art, no matter where it comes from. Uh, of course, I can admit that I do balk at some things that I see that are a little too out there. I mean, I may say if I see a white canvas with a red line, let's be serious. Okay.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
quite good.
no, but that's me.
Right. So, like, just and I don't want to say assume, but just when you think of the traditional and you got the modern, traditional is like pretty much when folks want to like stick with this and this is what it should look like. Where when you're modern, you're being a little bit more progressive and you're being a little bit more expressive to where it's like it's a little bit of everything. And so it's kind of like those two have a difficulty meshing.
They do have a difficulty meshing. The old guard
Mhm.
do not want to, with difficulty, give way to the new guard.
It's like they can't comprehend that, right?
They can't comprehend because to them it's like, like when you come up with something, your parents like, what were you thinking? Why are you doing that? You're like, oh, it's modern time. I mean, these kids now, a baby will unlock your iPhone even before you like, how did you do that? You don't know my code. But, stuff like that. But I've noticed that the old guard, the old artists, most, some, I would not say most, some do not want to give way to the new, the new generation. But there are a lot of old artists, that I wouldn't say old, but from the previous generation that do encourage and mentor the young ones into how to go about doing things. I mean, I remember I do a lot of exchanges, programs between the old ones and the new ones. I make sure they get a fair visit with everybody else. And I remember one was telling this other artist, kind of was like, um, have you ever varnished your work? He said, no, I never varnished it. He said, yeah, you should varnish it. It lasts longer. Let me show you how to do it and what kind of varnish to take. And the young one had never heard of that and had no clue of it. So there's some exchanges that happen, and some young ones also say to you, oh, this is a new technique that I learned. Try it, and then they kind of exchange. But one thing that I do mostly is have two artists collaborate on one piece.
Oh, now that's got to be interesting.
That's very interesting. It's not like, oh, I paint this and you paint that. I said, no, you all work together on the piece at the same time. Or one starts and one finishes, or they have, and then they work on it together to make it better and explain what they're doing. So that has always been an interesting thing for me to do.
Ooh, now I would love to see that because that has got to be probably one of the best forms of creativity that
Hmm.
you could ever imagine because you've got two minds that are similar but different and thinking different as to patterns as to what they want to see and how they make that work. That had to have been a gorgeous piece.
And they come up with something beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the significance of hosting art and census dinners in your home?
It has a lot of significance. Um, I would say that the major significance to me, one, the purpose, I would say, one of the purposes of it. was to be able to meet collectors, to work with artists and collectors at the same time, but also provide that exclusivity
Mhm.
to collectors. Um, because it's not everybody that's going to come to a art opening. Some collectors want to remain anonymous. They want to stay in the shadow, and they want to be part of a small group and they want to come and enjoy. So the Art and the Senses dinner was created to give that platform. But it's not only art. Like I said, it's food that I cook myself,
Mhm.
that I cook myself, and different drinks, African drinks that I prepare myself, that I serve. Then it's anywhere between 8 and 12 that we are here, sit around the table, talk about art, look at art, take a tour of the thing. I would take everything of mine off the walls and put up the artist, featured artist, put up his work uh, s- at for that weekend, and have people walk around the house, see the art, talk about talk about it, and enjoy. So that was mostly the mind behind having the art and senses dinner. I stopped that when COVID came, and I've been toying with the idea, and it's been long that I need to start it again.
Well, I got to tell you this. I mean, I've never attended one of those, but I've got to say that that in itself is a very creative idea. Because if you've got people coming that are especially collectors and you're giving them intimate moments like that to get the feel of what they are about to see, it's got to make the experience just crazy loving.
Yeah,
Because it's like, oh, I'm here in Africa.
exactly.
you know, I mean, that's really wonderful and creative. I mean, like, what made you think of that?
Um, it's just something that came up. I would say it's. Let me put it to you this way. Uh, my mother was in the foreign service, and she was the cultural attaché public affairs officer.
Hmm.
And she was always hosting dinners and always hosting gatherings.
Okay.
So I'm like, mm, why not do that, but in a different setting? And I have I inherited from her a lot of uh, tablecloths, plates, dinnerware, all African inspired. So hey, why not use them for something for an African for art and senses?
So, I guess we can call you the host with the most.
Yeah.
I like that. How do you incorporate sound, taste, and dialogue into the art experience?
Sound, taste. That's what I do with art and senses, because the taste is the food, the sound is the Afro beat or a piano or African jazz or whatever music is playing in the background, and the visual of the artwork.
Oh wow!
That's how it's all incorporated into one single experience.
So, what's your process for curating a multi-sensory exhibit?
Ooh, the process is identifying who to invite, basically.
Mhm.
That's one, and making sure that they're available. Is having a guest list, working on that guest list. Um also working with the artist also, because the artist is very important, because in this understanding what they want to do and what they want to show during that period, and curate the guest list accordingly
Mhm.
as well. So that's the main process. The rest of it is just winging it at the time, cooking, doing stuff like that. Most process is just getting the guest list and getting the dates and all that stuff. And basically, it's the communication.
Mhm.
Having worked citizen exchanges project. So I have a lot of information, knowledge of that, how to go about creating and sending out to folks invitations and uh, different with different agenda program. I would say a different program of what the experience is going to be like, and making sure that I stick true to what I said on paper that they were going to experience during that period.
So, how do you support artists beyond the gallery walls?
Uh, that's there's a whole lot of ways to support that I've provided artists, from assisting in buying material,
Mhm.
um, different, I would say mostly materials, some fees here, assisting with travel, filling out applications, helping us fill out application, reviewing their contract assigned with other galleries. For example, I said, let me see, make sure that everything is kosher in it, that you're not being taken advantage of. Having a one-on-one or just a group session. I have a WhatsApp group, for example, in which you have a whole bunch of artists in there,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, we do. Someone will submit a work, and we'll look at it and give a positive critique of the work,
Mhm.
and challenging the artist to come out of their comfort zone,
Mm.
mainly. But there's a whole gamut of ways that do go ahead and assist artists.
Look, I've got two comments here that's in the chat. I just want to I'll flash them on the screen. The first one, both of these are from B. Marcus Flanders, and the first one here he says, "Peace and blessings."
Peace and blessings, Marcus.
And this second one here, I'm assuming that as we were going in that conversation, he said absolutely. So
Okay.
I'm sure that it had to be something, that was along the lines of what you were talking about with that experience,
Yeah.
that you're giving out to the people that are coming to those dinners. That has got to be one of the best things in the world, and that makes you a unique individual, and that is one of the reasons why, in with the culture itself in general, this is like one of the things that I want to make sure that the audience understands, learns, and can get an idea as to um, the diversity of the work that you do and how broad it is, but from the art perspective, because there's not many people, in our community that I think really get into the art world. There's a lot of people that want to, but
Hmm.
sometimes they don't know how. And
It's
so
true.
this is why I think it's so important, to have them hear the work that you're doing.
It's true. And if I may, a lot of people that do want to get into the arts and also they need to understand that it's not only uh, getting the art from the artist and putting it on and putting in a gallery. For Africans, I would say it's the relationship also. It's
Yes.
very, very, very important to build that relationship and that trust,
Hmm.
and that takes time. Also, having the artist's best interest
Hmm.
at heart. But for the person wanting to also, it's also forgetting what they know or what they think they know and embracing the culture of the artist to be able to better understand and explain what the artist is doing, and understanding that different artists are not the same,
Right.
and you cannot treat them all the same. You cannot say, I would let me put it this way: don't have the colonial mentality and say, okay, I'm here, so this is an artist in Africa, so this is how it's going to be, and this and that, because ultimately they also have families and have a culture and something, and it's up to us to do our best to understand their culture, and I'll say take a trip, go visit,
Right.
understand something, and that will put you more in touch, and you'll be able to explain and talk more about their art and the artists and to your customers as well.
So let's go over a little bit and talk a little bit about your work in community engagement. Can you tell us how has your work in nonprofits shaped your approach to community building?
Ooh, a lot. Uh, I worked with communities. I mean, when I say remote, it's like you had to park the car and walk 3 hours. Okay,
Ooh.
okay. So that's remote. Uh, but also, it has to try to understand the problem of the people and do, because I've did a lot of community asset mapping in which you come to a community, you talk to them and see what they have, what they want to do, and figure out what assets they have. And okay, work on, let's use what the assets you have to start what you want. And then once we start, you can start approaching different businesses and say, hey, we came up to here, but we need assistance doing with this. That's to give them ownership. Because in the past, you have agencies like USAID and Canadian uh, and different European donors that came with a project or program, and they imposed it on the people. They took it just because they needed the money. But after the 5 years project, everything fell apart because the people never took ownership of it. So my approach was always, you tell me what your needs are, and let's see how we can find funding for that based on whatever donor is available. I'll give you an example. I went to, where was it? It was in Zambia, and way up in Kitwe. I think it was Kitwe. Yeah, it was way up in Kitwe. And the people wanted to do. They asked money to do uh, chicken farming. And so when I got there, I spoke to them and, over a day or so and talking to see what was going on. And I dug in into what is it that you want? What did you do prior? What did you do before that? So basically, they said they wanted to do chicken. And I said, okay, why? And then what did you try before? Oh, we tried fish farming, but that didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? Because there was no water. So, what is it exactly that you need? Oh, we actually want a well, but we didn't think that you would fund a well, so we went for chickens. So I contacted this Canadian group that was working, doing wells up around some other area, and said, "Hey, we have funding for them for chicken, uh, but can we use that to do a well instead because that's what they actually need?" And they said yes, they'll come and do it. So I managed to transfer the funds that way to that group for them to come do a well, and everybody was happy. But when I came back to Washington, I had my hand slapped because that's not what you were there for. You were there to help them do a chicken farm. So, but my goal was to help the people get what they actually needed. So that's that's how it's shaped. But to answer your question, a lot of meeting those different groups, uh, sitting, eating, talking to them, figuring out what the issues are, helping them do certain things, kind of reinforced who I am and how I see us as a community and how I can go into a community and say, okay, this is what we can do. Let's start a dialogue and dig in to see what exactly it is that we can do, and let's start doing it. And if we have a stop somewhere, let's approach other business and see how we can all come together and work uh, together to accomplish this goal.
What does cultural exchange mean to you in practice?
Cultural exchange to me in practice means that I show you my world, you show me your world, so to speak.
Right.
I come to you. Let's say I bring 15 women from 8 different countries in Africa to the U.S. to visit 5 different cities in the U.S. I have to do a program that is not only visiting those families or the NGOs, let's say the League of Women Voters, and see how they work things, but also creating that bond. It's not necessarily having them go to see a museum because they may not be interested in the art. But oh, let's go see if there's a farm they can go and talk to some farmers or some other thing because they've also there's some farmers in the group. So it's finding what the liaisons that people can have, finding that and start exchanging on that. And maybe the African will say, hey, this is how we do things. The American say, this is how we do things. Oh, I'm having this problem. How did you solve that problem? Oh, we solved that problem by doing this. That's what the Africans would tell them. Oh, we never thought of that. Because if you think of it, a lot of the farms in America during the slavery time were done by Africans that came with the knowledge, how to grow crops, how to get rid of pests, how to do this and how to do that. So there's knowledge, there's that knowledge there. And there's still the knowledge on both sides. So now it's exchanging culture, exchanging that culture, that knowledge, culture. So that's on a technical, but on a cultural side, I would say it's taking Americans to Africa and visiting, understanding the people, the culture, having a whole program, visiting different areas and different people, having an open mind and just mingling and eating and understanding storytelling. All kind of different projects, programs can be put together for the cultural exchange.
So, how do you ensure your work uplifts both African and African American communities?
Oof. That's a hard question.
Got it on your shoulders.
I know, right? That's a tough one. Um, Uplifting African artists and African communities is easy because they're willing to learn and travel and stuff like that. Working with Americans, it's a little more complicated because, in my humble opinion, and I may get slapped for it. Um, I don't find American artists that open-minded when it comes to Africa.
Mm,
Okay, and I don't find them being letting go of the same subject matter that they always have,
mm,
which is emancipation, slavery.
mhm.
Uh, so I encourage them always to travel. I don't care. Don't always travel to Europe to go see Louvre and all those other things.
Mm,
Go see where the legacy was stolen from.
mm.
You know,
You know something? I'm sorry, but as you're going down this road, this is that truth telling that I like for people to get is because you can't get to this place without going to the start.
exactly,
And people are always, we're here in America, you know, American people, as Americans in general, have a tendency of making things more complex than what they need to be.
I mean, for example, I'll give you a simple example.
Mm,
I can get Americans, white,
mhm,
to go to Africa, dress up, sleep on a floor mat, do mingle with the African artist and work with them and do and learn something.
mhm,
If I try African American, they want to stay in a 5-star hotel And I'm like, you live in Southeast. What do you need a 5-star hotel for?
Mhm.
Come on,
And see,
keep it real.
this is where you learn culture.
Exactly. You're here to learn, mingle with the people. Whatever you see, forget about all preconceived notions you have.
Hmm.
Try to learn as much as you can because ultimately your art has to evolve.
Right.
You cannot continue painting the same thing over and over. I look at African artists, their work is always evolving,
Mm.
always, constantly evolving. Sometimes you see a series, you're like, huh? He said, yeah, I switched up. So you're
Right.
like, but trying to get my fellow African Americans out of that subject matter is very difficult.
It's challenging.
It's challenging, I would say,
Very challenging.
and having them to travel to Africa. Now, quite a few do,
Yes.
but in general, trying to have them go without being in a tour is very complicated,
You know,
challenging.
so,
I would say.
I just I hope those that are out there that are watching the show understand one thing, and that is when we talk about culture, when we talk about legacy, when we talk about community building, we're talking about it's not just where you are now.
Hmm.
It's where it's all started. So if you know where it started, and you know if it's you knowing that it's going to be different, but it's together to some shape, form, or fashion,
Hmm.
you've got to get down to that point and build that back up and understand.
Yep.
You know, some people it's a little bit difficult for a lot of folks, but for some they're just willing because it's like, hey, I want to know.
But you see, the thing is that people don't get that prejudice is a time saver
That's a good word to use.
because it stops you from having to examine yourself
Ah,
and having it stops you from getting out of your comfort zone.
right.
And it's basically stops you from growing also.
Mm,
So by being locked up in this little box, you you in your comfort zone, you don't. I always tell folks, do not look at the sky through a window. Go out the window and look at the entire sky.
mhm, mhm.
There's a whole world out there to see.
Yes.
Do not look at it through the frame of a window. Go out of the window.
Ooh, so I know when you come back on the show, I know where we're gonna pick up at. I can tell you that. This is all wonderful here because in talking about community engagement, that's a real thing. Let's transition over to Black History. When I
Hmm.
spoke with you and I told you that we do Black History 365,
Hmm.
and I asked you who were the most influential person or persons in your life and career. You told me President Sekou Toure and Stokely Carmichael.
Hmm.
Can you tell us why are President Sekou Toure and Stokely Carmichael such pivotal figures in your life?
Okay. Uh, President Secretary at the time was the first president that said no to French colonialism. Yeah, okay. Because of that, the French burnt everything they ever built before they left. They destroyed whatever they could destroy and left the country in shambles because they didn't want to do. And they put an embargo on Guinea, the same type of similar embargo that they put on Haiti for centuries, for example.
Yep.
So he instilled pride in his people. You know the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore,
No, I don't think I.
the young president from Burkina Faso that's doing a lot of amazing things in this
Oh,
country.
oh, yeah, okay, yes,
At that time, that was Secretary
okay,
until they started getting to his mental. But I'm not going to get into that.
right.
But he did a lot of country. He did a lot. At that time, they had factories for juice, milk, cement, tile. They have all kind of different factories because he was talking about being self-sufficient
Right.
and not depending on foreign imports
Mhm.
for people to feed themselves. But that came with mixed bags. Some saw it good, some saw it bad, because other people looked at Ivory Coast and Senegal and said, "Hey, they're doing far more better as far as what they have, but to what cost?"
Right.
When it comes to Stokely Carmichael, which he changed his name to Kwame Ture, and I always call him Uncle Stokely because that's what I'm used to. I used to have conversations with him, and the conversations I used to have with him were based on the Black experience, Pan Africanism, and I remember one time we were talking. He was like, he heard me talking to his grandson,
Mhm.
uh, and in which I said, "Oh no, if America ever has a Black president, they probably try to kill him." This was in the 70s, 1970s in Africa. Okay, he heard me say that. And he came to me, was like, "Why did you say that?" I said, "Because this is what America is about." And he says, "Yeah, I was probably 11 years old
Mhm.
at the time." And
But
he
you had
told me,
a vision.
you shouldn't say things like that because it would be our job to protect that president and make sure that he's successful.
Oh, yes.
So he taught me a lot about what was it, the student movement, SNCC, Black Panthers.
Mhm.
We talked a lot about his encounters or his meeting with Dr. King,
Mhm.
um, and all those other things. Just listening him talk, that kind of gave me a broader idea. When I came to college, it was logical for me to major in Black Studies because I wanted to know more
Right.
about it. So that's why I said those were the two influential.
Person. So, how did Sekou Touré's leadership in Guinea influence your worldview?
Hmm. I'll keep it clean. He influenced my worldview because he taught us that we have to be proud of ourselves. We have to carry our pride. We had to be polite. We had to put country first, not ourselves. You start with the country, your family, whoever, your neighbors, and you come last. You put everybody first before you in building their country, in building your country. So even in my relationships now, and he also told us, be wary of, do not always trust uh, Europeans, so to speak. So, and influence all that history of whatever happened, and he did not let us forget that that's what happened. So, in a sense, that feeling the pride in oneself, always wanting to serve because we were meant to serve others, always wanted to be there and serve others, forming that community is innate in me.
Right.
For example, other people find this strange. I have a WhatsApp group with all the people I went to school with, starting from kindergarten.
Oh, wow. You were able to find that many people?
We are still in touch. We always have been in touch.
Wow.
And this is friendships of
Oh, wow.
50, 55 years.
Yes.
Yes. That we still all in the WhatsApp group. We went from writing letters to email to WhatsApp to whatever platform we can find to form a group and constantly stay in touch.
Wow. That is just wonderful.
And it would not be possible if we did not have that upbringing in Guinea.
Wow. You Before I move on to this next question, I got to tell you, when I was in undergrad and I took an African American Studies course, right? And I've always had that yearning of wanting to have knowledge of a lot of different things, right?
Hmm.
And I'm one that what I learned in philosophy is, we can go two ways. We either knowledge is innate or it's taught. I can honestly tell you that when I took that African American Studies course, everything instantaneously opened in my mind where I can not just imagine, but I could visualize each and everything that actually transcended that got us to this point. That
Hmm.
even includes when we talked about Grimaldi Man. And a lot of people to this day probably be like, what the hell is, or who the hell is Grimaldi Man? And of course, that was the first person on the face of the earth. And actually, Dr. Dijot is the one that went through and did all these teachings and discoveries and talking about him and his origins and everything else. That in itself, from that one particular class, it's just sprung everything about African American studies and learning about our culture that things that we knew to be true or things that we know was true and was false. And now we're at that point of the reckoning part to where
Hmm.
now it's like it's overflowing everywhere.
Hmm.
And there's like this major pushback that's trying to put the genie back in the bottle, which perhaps
It's too late because we're in
yeah,
the era of communication, and everything is open and everything is out there. Once it's out, you
yes,
cannot put the genie back. You can rub it any old kind of way, do whatever you want to do with it. That genie ain't going back in.
no,
It's loose now. It's universal. It's everywhere.
yes,
How you gonna curtail it? Impossible.
right,
You can beat him, join him.
yeah,
Basically, at this point.
yeah, exactly. So, what lessons from Stokely Carmichael's activism resonate in your work today?
Um, I would say the major part is his active is making sure that your people are progressing, that your people got justice, that your people become self-reliant, so to speak. That's what I got. That's what I got from him. I'm not. There's one word that escaping me, but it may feel that I'm the guardian of my culture, and everybody should be guardians of their culture, and we should come together, and make sure that we, hand in hand, we move forward in the direction that we choose to move, and not a direction that is imposed on us.
Exactly. Exactly. Because being controlled of your own destiny is one thing. That's you and how you do it. Not
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm going to help guide you because you need to go over here because this is why you need to do that. No, sir. No, sir. That's not the way life works.
Hmm.
But, some people still on that trip.
Yep.
On that trip. So, we gotta lay them down, give them some medication so they can rest their nerves a little bit. 'Cause they need some medication right now. They need like a Valium or something because they got to go to sleep and wake back up.
But it's I would say it's getting rid of the miseducation that's the most complicated part.
Mhm.
Because if one, no wonder a lot of things were removed from the schools, the curriculum.
Mhm.
Even I would say I don't know how long ago, but it's been at least a couple of decades that they removed civics and critical thinking out of the curriculum.
Ooh, let's see what you talking about. I talk to people about it every day. These children are not learning critical thinking, and they don't know how to do it.
No, they don't. It was removed from the curriculum. They're not taught how to think for themselves, and only
Right.
thing they go about is quoting this person, quoting that person, and we say, "Let me know what your thought is on this matter." They start quoting. I said, "I don't want to quote.
Hmm.
I want your thoughts on it.
Hmm.
How did you analyze it?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, how do you see their legacies reflected in your gallery and outreach?
Whose legacies?
Sekou Touré and Stokely Carmichael.
Mm, I would say there's an indirect effect in the sense that since I was taught to, I grew up with education of taking care of my community and taking care of ourselves.
Mhm.
Uh, Me being a custodian of my own, it's natural for me to foster relationships with other artists that are custodian of their own as well, and see how we can move things, how we can move things forward. Oh, what can we do to assist each other? For example, that would say that's the legacy. I would say.
So, what does Pan Africanism mean to you personally and professionally?
Hmm. Personally, is seeing one single Africa, one like the United States of Africa, I would say,
Mhm.
and them controlling, all of them controlling their own destiny with different, despite the different cultures, narrowing it down to two languages. I might get some slack from this. Swahili is spoken from Kenya all the way down to South Africa. So one language could be on that side, and one language could be in West Africa. It could either be Mandingo or something that's widely spoken, but just some language unity. The thing with Africa is that there's a cultural unity. No matter where you go, what country, what city, what village, the
Mhm.
do's and don'ts are similar. So
Mhm.
there's one cultural unity, despite the different languages, different ethnic groups, and all that other stuff.
Right.
So that could be, if that is understood,
Mhm.
if that cultural unity is taught in the schools in Africa, for example,
Mhm.
they can definitely overcome all those differences because there's really not that much difference between them, between the overcome those differences on a personal level to come up to a country level, regional level, and Pan African level.
Mhm. How do you honor historical figures through contemporary art?
Mm, I usually let the artists express themselves when it comes to that. Uh, I don't necessarily encourage portraits of historical figures, uh, but what I do encourage is for the artist to exercise. Let's say someone is not a figurative, is abstract. Try painting someone and try a historical figure. That is when I mean someone,
Right.
and basically encourage them to collect from each other, basically different things, different figures. But I can't say that I necessarily do work on or promote historical figures in the arts or so. I can't say that I actually do.
So, what role does Black Studies play in your curatorial lens?
Hmm. That's something I never gave a thought to.
Really?
Because it's something that's when you get an education, it's innate.
Right.
And
Okay.
it's not something you sit and think, oh, maybe I should do this based on this, or maybe I need to do this based on that. It's something that you learned and you start doing things um, just because it's what you know what to do, how to do, and what to do, or taught to do. So that's why it's not something that's easy to answer as far as giving an example A, B, C, D, E. It's just like It's me, it's my education, it's within me,
Right.
it's what I express out. That's what allowed me to go to visit most of sub-Saharan Africa, working on different projects, visiting different communities, and like I said, if you park the car and walk three hours to get to a village, for example, doing that kind of stuff, is having that open-mindedness to be able to do that.
Okay. And final question. How do you bridge historical context with modern expression?
How do I bridge historical context with modern expression? In the arts?
It is more so about the arts, but we're talking about here in Black history and culture.
Oh, Black history and culture. Ah, that's a conversation I'm always having. But how to bridge?
Hmm.
I'm shaking my head because I had a conversation which is like, okay, uh, you see a lot of kids now that say, I don't care about the past, this is what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I'm like, uh, a lot of people died for you to be able to think that you can do this, so so to speak. So you might want to respect and embrace and get familiar with that historical context, because if you do not pay attention to what happened historically, it's bound to repeat itself
It's
because you're
going
not
to
paying
repeat
attention.
itself. It's going to repeat.
It's going to repeat because you're not paying attention. And you think that you're beyond that, but you're never beyond anything, so to speak, because everything comes back in a cycle. So the bridging to me is mostly what I'm trying to bridge most is the misunderstanding between Africans and African Americans. That's
Mhm.
my focus.
Oh,
Not necessarily the historical context in the US, because remember, I did not grow up in the US.
right.
Okay. Uh, I don't know, through Black studies, I learned about it, but I did not live it.
Right.
Okay. So coming back here to go to college, I can see certain things. Like I can remember one of my professors tell me, don't live in Oakland, there are too many Black people. African professor.
Oh Lord.
So- and I'm like, sir, when I wake up in the morning, this is what I see.
That brain is whitewashed.
Yeah, so I prefer to be among my people in Oakland than be in Berkeley,
Right.
so to speak. So that prompted me to start having conversation on campus in the student union at San Francisco State University
Mhm.
between Africans and African Americans, having start holding conversations on what it is that how we can bridge this divide, this misunderstanding, and all that other stuff, and especially the cultural divide. Because a lot of Africans will say, "Well, Americans don't have a culture." I say, "Yes, they do."
Mm.
I said because you have to understand what they lived from being snatched from Africa,
Mm.
chains, boats, sardines, all the way to here, and be sold off, pried off from their people, sold off, torn apart here and there, and all the cruelty that happened. You have to have the open mindedness to understand them, just like you're asking them to have the open mindedness to understand you.
You see, what makes that so crazy is that because again, this is like how the story was told, but the real thing is that we were already here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We were already here.
Hmm.
So the ones that were actually migrated from Africa that came here experienced the exact same thing that the people that were here experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't make us any different because we're still connected despite all the miles
Exactly.
apart. We're still connected.
We still connected.
And
Exactly.
so what is the issue is, again, this is that divide and conquer syndrome from whitewashing.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are still refusing and not getting the point. Together, you're a force. Separated, you're conquered.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And they'll divide you along political, religious, and all kind of different lines, trying to. And you have to. I should say, one has to kind of like wake up.
Yes.
That's why they don't like the term woke.
Yes.
You have to wake up and basically understand. Okay, this is who I am. This is what happened. This is what I need to move away from. This is how I need to create my reality in order to connect with my people. And those on this, I should say, this is where I am. This is where I need to wake up from, and this is where I need to understand and connect to my people
Yes.
as well, and become one with.
Exactly. So, in closing, sir, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement that you like to leave with our audience, including telling them how to connect with you on your socials? If you have a website that you like them to visit in order to check out your art, all of that good stuff.
Sure. I could be connected via Instagram on John Patrick Guichard. That's my name on Instagram. You can find me there. Also have a website for the gallery. It's gallerymiriam.com, and as well as Facebook, gallerymiriam.com, or John Patrick Guichard. You can connect with me on both. And from there you'll have my other contact if you have any questions. That's the best. In closing, I would say that all of us, every single of us, we should see ourselves as the custodian of our culture, and make sure that we culture and legacy uh, that we receive, and make sure that we nurture it and pass it on to the next generation. Um, that's my closing word. Whether it be visual arts, performing arts, any kind of art, we're custodian of our culture, and make sure we do write it down and pass it on. A lot of us do not, and I'm guilty of that. I'm thinking, because my mother, we always tried to make her to write her story, and she always said she was going to, but she never got around to it. But it's important for us to try to write our stories. It doesn't necessarily have to be published, but write our stories to be given to the next generation. For example, I was able to recreate a family tree on my father's side all the way back to the 1800s
Oh,
up to present day,
oh wow.
and it's huge.
Mhm.
My mother's side, I was able to find it, recreate some of it partially, but with people being torn here and here, and it's digging into records, it does take longer. But I'm working on that one. But I was able to find pictures and records from Plymouth, North Carolina, all the way up to New York.
Oh wow.
But and some names and pictures. So I'm working on the rest, creating the whole story there, so that I can pass on to the next generation.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you for spending this time with us. It's really been great, and it was well worth the wait. And we definitely got to have you back.
Thank you so much. It has been total pleasure being here, an honor, I should say.
Well, for those of you that are watching on all 8 of our channels as we broadcast live, in particular, those of you that are watching on the YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed and enabled all notifications, please do so and help in supporting our cause and what we're doing to help to continue to build communities. We would definitely appreciate your support with that subscription. What we all just learned tonight is, creativity and art has a lot to do with life and culture. What that means is that you are who you are. Your feelings are what you are feeling. What you see is what you see. You don't see what somebody else's see. So when you are creating and you're telling a story, people can see that story. If they have a problem understanding that story, you shouldn't have a problem telling them, this is the story. We all have to be who we are. We all have to be proud of who we are. And we all have to live life to its fullest. What we have learned is, African American culture, whatever you want to call it, Black history, Black people have populated this earth from beginning to now. You want to know the story? Go to the beginning and then come forward. I want to thank you all for watching this evening. We have a very special show for you guys on Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please tune in and watch another episode of America in Black and White, where we will continue to color conversations on the canvas of America. Thank you, Jean Patrick, and I will definitely be in touch with you. You all have a great evening.